I am back with Daria Vernon, who just read us a very intriguing scene from her latest book, The Rogue's Last Letter, which, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the cover right behind her. And it is a gorgeous cover. I have the first thing that I wanted to ask you. I think it's evident in your bio, it's in the visual branding that you use. I think it's also in what we just heard. You have a very specific tone that you bring to historical romance that's kind of like winking at the audience. And so I'm really curious, is that just how you are? And you're like, why does everyone keep telling me that? Or did you do that on purpose? And what went into that thought?
I think I think it's probably just kind of natural to me. I was initially like the thing that led me to historical romance was all the first romances I was ever exposed to were 80s and 90s bodice rippers. And those always had a really interesting mix of, their problems aside, they always had tonally a very interesting mix of sometimes like angst and cheekiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how intentionally I'm inspired by that, but like I'm sure that I've absorbed some of that through my affection for those books. But I also just think that 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 winking and that kind of like subliminal humor between people who have a spark between each other is very like fun to explore and very like a very organic thing that exists between a lot of couples.
Yeah. Well, also not just couples. I mean, in the scene you just read, a fair amount of it is the humor that Allison shares with Beatrice. And
Mhm.
it almost feels like they are having a platonic romance going on where they're a little unsure of each other. Like when Beatrice declares that she feels like a mother to Allison, Allison's like, I do feel that way, but let's not talk about it, which, could easily be the hero saying, I love you. And then her being like, get away from me. Um, so I love that that's on the page. How do you think about balancing the romance plot with subplots that are about, other types of relationships like these female friendships?
I try to explore female friendships as much as I can. Like I love like that's a dynamic that I love exploring. I mean, there's not a relationship I don't love exploring, but because I think family stuff is very interesting too. But as far as balancing things, this was one of the more challenging books to do that because I have almost a secondary like subgenre going with I had never written mystery, but I started injecting a lot more than I expected into this. And yeah, this was a harder one to balance kind of those plot points. But as far as like the characters, that's just always been really natural. Like I just want to know about, everyone that's involved in someone's life. And I think these peripheral people can be very, very critical to a love story that's playing out alongside them.
Yeah. I know what you mean about the mystery. I love reading mysteries. And so for one of my books, I was like, I'm going to try doing a mystery subplot. And first of all, it was very hard because I had to know what was going to happen, which I didn't know as I was writing it, and then come up with red herrings. But then also, I kept being like, but I just want to explore this romance, or I just want to explore this other relationship. Like, I was like, this must be why I write romance.